At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES podcast with your host, Soul Blazer.
Hello, everybody. This is Super NES Podcast, episode number 8 this time. Getting one episode ahead of myself here. This is Greg, as always, is joined by Joe.
Hello.
And we're here to cover. We're here to cover another game for you on Super NES today. Obviously, this pick was mine, and I picked this game because this is another one of those games that has a very bad reputation as being like a very bad game. So it's been my experience, however, that most of these bad games are not really as terrible games as people make them out to be for one reason or another. I think with one exception, every game we played so far of the podcast that said it's a bad game, I've been like, well, it actually really is not that terrible. But so I was curious to play this game to see if the same is true of this game. We're looking at the adaptation of the TV sitcom Home Improvement, the Super NES this episode. A game I never played before. Again, partly because it's like reputation. So I assume that. I assume this is also Joe's first time like the game.
Yes.
Okay. Did you watch the TV show when it was on?
So I watched it occasionally, like here and there, but it was not like every single episode I had to sit down and watch sort of thing. It was, if I caught it, I caught it. If I didn't, no big deal. It just, I don't know. By that time, with Home Improvement, was the beginning of my teenage years. I had other prerogatives than sitting down and watching a TV show, even if it was as ridiculous as going to the mall and trying to pick up God only knows what kind of girl and do shopping and stuff of that nature. So yeah.
I'm trying to remember what what day and time the episode the show aired too, because that also makes a big difference too, especially back in the day before streaming became widespread.
Right.
As to how much you watch the show, because if it's like Friday night or Saturday night, you're probably not going to see it because you're probably out doing other things. But if it's like Wednesday, but it's like early like Wednesday evening or whatever, you're like, yeah, I'll throw this on the background or whatever. But because and I did not look it up beforehand, so I really don't remember what day. I want to say it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It was definitely a weeknight. It wasn't late. It was like maybe like 8. It was like an 8 or 8:30 time slot.
So I am pulling it up right now. I'm just looking to see.
Well, for those of you out there who have not seen the show, Home Improvement was on the air from 1991 to 1999. 8 seasons. I forgot it lasted that long. So
yeah.
Tim Allan obviously was the main star on the show. He already was an established stand-up comedian before the show. But he used the show's success to springboard him into like becoming a movie actor and other things like that. Speaking of movies, Joe, I recently rewatched Galaxy Quest, which I had not seen since it first came out in the theaters way back when, and that movie actually holds up pretty well today. I thought, that's a very good movie.
I bought that movie on a whim because it's one of those it didn't get good reviews when it came out. It bombed in the box office.
No, which doesn't make sense because it's a great cast. It's right. It's pretty faithful to being the parody, tongue-in-cheek look at Star Trek and Star Wars and that kind of stuff and whatnot. Yeah. And it's actually very good. I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was very funny, and I thought it was very good at, making fun of the material, but yet being also very faithful to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's great. And that's definitely a movie I recommend to people because it's not as bad as it was initially thought, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, sorry. Let me correct that. Tim Allan used the show to become more popular as a comedian. He already was a comedian at that point.
Yes.
But definitely the show's popularity helped to improve that. Actually, I remember him saying in an interview back then that he actually made to start doing a lot of very adult raunchy shows, and then he realized very quickly he had to change format because all the kids were showing up at his shows now because of the TV shows. There's well, we need to change gears here on this, but. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, the show was never number one in time slot, but obviously was popular enough for the last 8 seasons. So, the basic premise of the show, which I'm going to mention here because it does tie into the game, is that basically Tim Allan was a host. He played a host of do-it-yourself what do you call it? Home improvement show. Yep. Total Time, a coast. Just being a stupid, stereotypical man. Not following directions. Not taking advice. There was hijinks ensue that kind of stuff. It's you knew the formula going in, but the cast is pretty good. The episode had some pretty good comedy vibe to them. It's I miss comedies. It's there's not, there's not been a comedy on the air for a long time. I've actually really loved the same way I loved 90s classic comedies like Home Improvement or Friends or Seinfeld or that kind of stuff because I know I know there are still good comedy shows out there, but just for one reason or another, I'm just not tuning into them like I was back then. And again, maybe it's because it's the market is so diluted these days of all the streaming networks and whatnot. So it's different. It's different now than it was back then, of course. But anyway, so. Given the popularity of the show and the fact that many shows get picked up for games to be made out of them because it's cheap material, I guess it's not complete shock that Home Improvement got picked up for one. Yeah. The game was published by Absolute Entertainment, who we've already covered in the past in this podcast. Disney actually approached them to do this game specifically because they're because Absolute had recently done a game called Goofy's Hysterical History Tour for Genesis in 1993, which Disney was very pleased with. So, and Disney owns ABC, and ABC is the network that the show aired on, so that's why they had the rights to it. So they approached Absolute asking, hey, you guys did a great job with this game. Do you want to tackle this project? So Absolute in turn hired the developer Imagineering to actually develop the game. Another company I've already covered before, on this podcast. They're best known for making the Boy and His Blob games. As also the Battle Tank and Super Battle Tank games as well. So. The actual game design for Home Improvement came from two very well-known and famous veterans of the gaming industry who have long resumes going way back to 200 days. Dan Kitchen and David Crane. So, if I told you David Crane was the person who created Pitfall, Joe, that might help to light some light bulb in your head, as to where some of the design for this game came from. Yeah. But anyway, so we'll get to that here in a moment. But anyway, they didn't actually program the game, but they were the ones because at this point, both of them were in higher management / producer roles in the company. But they were the ones who actually designed the game and whatnot. So, as is typical for games based off of shows, this is a platformer. And I saw somebody when I was doing research on this game. I actually saw somebody suggest that the game actually might have been better if it was an adventure game. And I'm kind of inclined to agree with that because I think an adventure game based on this premise would be pretty good. I think, but platformers are the easiest and cheapest thing to do with a game of this type. So that's what they did. So. Yeah. The game came out Super NES only. Got released in November of '94. There was a digital version of this game also in the works, that version of the game never got released. I don't know. I don't know how far the game got in development. I would not be shocked if there's a prototype of this game floating around out there somewhere that's not been dumped. I could not find a specific reason as to why the game got canceled. But I did find indications that this game did not sell very well on the system for various reasons. When we talk about eBay pricing later on, this game's pretty expensive on eBay, so that supports the fact that this had a small print run and didn't sell very well. So I would not be surprised if Absolute decided, based upon the poor Super NES sales, just to scrap the Genesis version.
Yeah, and I just want to interject here. It aired on ABC Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Okay, so, a little bit later than I thought, but yeah.
And that would have been, I don't know, I wouldn't say it'd be the time I'd be going to bed at that time, but it would definitely it would definitely be the time I would have been up in my room and definitely playing games before I went to bed. So.
Yeah, right. So I've not watched Home Improvement in a long time. I mean, like you, it was a show I also watched fairly regularly. I mean, because I usually like around or whatnot. I was in college and grad school during this time period as well too, and I didn't have cable TV in my room back then. So it's like if you wanted to watch TV, you had to go to the lounge to do it. So so it wasn't a show. It wasn't a show that I watched regularly. I did watch it afterwards and reruns. Because the show is still in syndication like this day, but I'm not sure how well it holds up today. But all the seasons are available on DVD. And I did not check to see if it's available in syndication. I'm sorry, like streaming it. It might be on. It might be on Disney Plus or something like that. I haven't. I forget to look into. Look into that. So
yeah, I was going to say, being an ABC show, it more than likely would be on Disney streaming. But I cannot confirm nor deny that it's there. Yeah, right.
So anyway, so as we said, the game itself, like it's a platformer. The developers tried to mimic the look of the look and feel of the show in this game, and this game. Like overall, they do a pretty good job, I thought. The actual full name of the game kind of gives you a hint as what the actual gameplay is about, because the full name of the game is Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit, which kind of describes fairly well what you're doing in this game, because the basic plot of the game, which I told you like in the beginning, like these some cutscenes, is that Tim is getting a line of tools named after his daughter. He's prepared to debut the tools on the show. Somebody steals the tools. It's never said why. Maybe somebody's just jealous of his success or whatnot. But and scatters them across the different sets. And so he has to go. Retrieve all the tools. And also mysteriously fight enemies along the way to get the tools back in time for the show. So there's 4 worlds. There's 4 worlds. Each world's a backdrop because you're in Hollywood, basically. So 4 worlds and 4 stages for each world. So average playthrough of the game is about 2 hours, give or take, based upon the playthroughs and whatnot that I saw like online. So. There is a continue feature, but that's about it. So, and also keeping in theme with the actual the overall image and idea of the show. I'm not sure if you looked at the manual for this game, Joe, but
there is no manual.
Well, yes and no. There is a manual edition with the game, and it opens up like a usual manual because it tells you the basic copyright information, Super NES safety tool, that kind of stuff. It gives you starts off like a typical controller layout, here's the controller, here's the bungee, that kind of stuff. And when you turn the page, and there's a lot of, and you can tell there's a lot of stuff written down those pages. Yep. But right across both of the pages in very large text is a sticker. There's a big red and white sticker. There's a sticker that this is real men don't need instructions. Yep. Which was a nod toward the show, and Tim always doing things without reading instructions and doing stupid things because of it. So kudos to developers for at least like they're trying to make the game fit with the overall theme of the show, which I think overall they succeeded in that point. Between the actual overall plot of the episode of the game and also the instruction manual. So pretty cool idea of the manual, I thought. I will give it props for that. So anyway, the actual game itself. Joe, do you want to talk about how the game plays and your overall impressions of it?
Yeah, so you run around as Tim Allan. Forgive me, I can't freaking remember the name of his character in the show. Was it Tim? I can't remember.
No, his character was named
Al Borland's the only one I freaking remember.
Oh, no, you're right. He actually was called Tim on the show.
Okay. So, Tim's life bar is kind of like Sonic. He collects nuts and bolts while he goes through the level. When you get hit, you lose those nuts and bolts. You'll have about a second or two to be able to collect whatever you drop. And if you get hit when you have no nuts and bolts, you faint, pass out, the family runs in and revives you, and then you have a chance to go. There is no dying here. I thought the pep talk that the family gives him to kind of get him to get back into it was pretty good. One of the keynotes I put in here, other than the Sonic reference, was that, man, this could have been a Pitfall game. So,
well, now you know why.
I did catch on. One thing I did like about this game, though, that you don't see in very many Super Nintendo games is that when you kill an enemy, they stay dead. At least, until you die, and then they respawn. But the fact that, if you have a difficult time getting through the level and you can kill the enemies, they're going to stay dead. You're going to be doing a lot of backtracking, I will tell you that right now. And killing things does take quite a bit. That all being said, I think overall this is a pretty welcome change from your typical platformer collectathon that would have come out at this time. You have a grappling hook that will help you reach higher places. You have a jackhammer that'll help you get to lower places. A regular hammer to help get through rock walls that block your way, which you're going to come across as you search for the tools. Along the way, you'll get a nail gun, a chainsaw, and a flamethrower, just to name a few. I had fun with the flamethrower, by the way. That's like one of the first weapons you pick up outside of the nail gun.
It's actually a blowtorch, but it's a blowtorch. But it is used as a flamethrower in the game. So I
was going to say, that is not a blowtorch. That's definitely a flamethrower. All these weapons are temporary, but when you pick up a new weapon, you'll drop whatever it is that, you end up, you had. And, of course, can't pick it back up, so it's like Contra in that sense. Also, if you get multiples of the same weapon back to back, it'll make it's an upgrade, so it'll make that weapon stronger, which is a huge plus. I felt the game was kind of repetitive. Definitely works on a momentum basis, which parallels back to the Sonic reference with the life. It takes some time to get used to, but yeah, there's definitely there's momentum there, and sometimes you need that momentum to do the platforming, so it makes sense that it's there. It's just something I didn't expect. Because some games that usually are like this are kind of rigid and don't have that momentum aspect to it. But yeah, the levels are pretty big, much bigger than I thought they'd be. And I think that's actually the biggest flaw of this game, as far as gameplay goes, is that I just feel like the levels are too big. I got lost quite a few times. I eventually figured it out, but it's definitely very troublesome to be walking around such a large area, and you forget where, especially, that's another thing that really bothered me about this is like, all the levels are pretty much the same. And now I don't mean, like, layout or anything like that. The layout and the aesthetics change. But essentially, you're dealing with the same sort of enemies. You're going to be dealing with the same sort of jumps, hidden secrets, things of that nature. It's quick level swaps. I don't understand why they tried so hard with the instruction manual and with all the components to make a home improvement game, and then when it came to the levels, they were just like, whatever. And that's really what it felt like, and it's kind of disappointing in that sense. But you know, it kind of works in your favor in the end, because you know, it's either you're going to like this game or you're not. And the fact that a lot of it is the same, and it's only that change in the aesthetic and the level layout, you can play through the first level, and you can decide right at the end of that level, usually within 10-15 minutes, whether you're going to stick with the game or you're just going to say, you know what, I've seen what I've seen, I enjoyed what I enjoyed, but I'm good. So that was really, and that's really the brunt of it there. I do feel the game can be cheap at times. I want to say I don't want to use the word hard or challenging, because it's not really, in my opinion, hard or challenging. It's just that it's horrible enemy placement. And that's the best way to break it down. There were times there's little bugs, and these little bugs, it's automatic damage. You can't kill them, you can't shoot them, you can't jump on them or whatever. Like, they're going to hit you. Good thing is they die afterwards, but you're guaranteed to take at least one hit from these things, and then you're gonna have to collect your nuts and bolts and build that life back up. So that was kind of annoying. There were a couple times where I jumped off platforms and I ended up literally landing on an enemy because you couldn't see what was below you. And again, it's bad enemy placement. I think that is probably, you know, one of the bad things about it. I have some other stuff to say, but I'm going to wait because it's more like graphics and stuff of that nature, and comparisons to how I feel about the game as a whole. So, yeah.
Right. That's a pretty good summary. Like, I agree with most of that. You know, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things which I do like about this game. You know, like, don't get me wrong. You know, I'll start off by talking about some things that very impressed me here from the get go. As I already mentioned, the developers did a pretty good job about trying to get the actual theming of the show tied in with the game, and having your kids show up they show up to help you out is a nice touch and whatnot. So, but yeah, the actual stages themselves are kind of a weird mix. It's like, you know, agreeing with everything you said, so I'm not going to like repeat you, but it's like, the stage design is kind of like, it's very weird. It's like, you know, I thought they could have done a little bit more effort like in that area instead, but, the weapons themselves you can get are nice. I definitely do like them. They're both appropriate in theme for the show, and also pretty good weapons. Like, you know, as silly as it is, like, you know, like a saw throwing energy waves like way out there. But you know, hey, it's a video game, is what it is. I mean, you're also fighting. You're also fighting dinosaurs and acids spewing mummies at points too. It's like, you know, the whole thing kind of like bonkers. But but yeah, so the actual gameplay, it does get kind of frustrating at points, because it's like, it's not horrible. It's not the worst platformer I played, but you know, I don't know if you had the same problem I did. It's like, the controls to me were a mixed bag. I thought the controls themselves were responsive, but I thought the hitboxes were fair. I do agree with you the fact there were some enemies that are very horribly placed where you are going to take damage no matter what. I had big issues, however, trying to hit fire and hold the run button at the same time.
Yeah.
That is not an easy thing to do. I don't know why they mapped it that way, and you can't remap the controls in this game either for some reason. So, but anyway, also, how can I put this? The actual screen tracking, the warping of the stage when it tries to keep like Tim in motion, it's kind of janky and awkward, but. Yeah. Which I don't know why, because I think these are experienced programmers for the system. It's like I don't know, I don't know the resumes, but like I said, they absolutely had already made Super NES games by this point. So I think the people know the system. So yeah, but yeah, so. It's really only bad when you try and change directions quickly because it's kind of like jerky, and maybe for people out there who have been sensitive, kind of nauseating, maybe even. But again, yeah, I don't know why that is. It doesn't kill the game. It doesn't help either. Right. So. And like you said, yeah, I don't think the game is overly challenging. Except for the fact that the enemies are kind of awkwardly placed. Most of them can be taken out like pretty easily. You are collecting items in the stage, so there is that element to it as well too. But like you said, the stages are long, so that's kind of how. So that's kind of like leaves like a tedious feeling in parts. However, the game does give you kind of like a hint as to where to go if you stand still for a moment, which is nice.
Yeah.
So we'll give it that. But yeah, it's like, I just felt this game was like too long. I thought it was like trying to do here.
Yes.
It's like I appreciate the game trying to give game value, especially back in the day when it was like $60 like for a new game. Sorry, $50. But like I said before, platformers by platforming standards, this is a long platforming game, and you don't have passwords, so it's like it is kind of a bit hard to go through like one setting as well too. So it's like the pit. So it's like making a Pitfall like game. I think was a great idea. David Crane, Dan Kitchen definitely came up with the right concept. I think in making this game, but it's like the actual execution of that plan just didn't carry through for one reason. Carry through like one reason or another.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure where the ball got dropped, but. Having said all that, the game is not as bad as I think its reputation leads it to be. Spoiler, but I mean, but again, I'm going to say it's bad, but it's not horrible. There definitely are platformers I play in the system that are worse. They're worse than this one is. So, and we'll talk about reception of the game toward the end, but it's like at least it's playable. It can be tedious and not very fun at points, but the game definitely is playable at least. So and like you said, if you enjoy the style of game, there is at least enough here to get you through the actual game itself. So
yeah, and I gotta talk about it because I feel like we're kind of being negative about it, but like. I'll admit, like, the big positive for this game is this game looks great. The graphics are fantastic, and the animations are beautiful. Like, it's really nice. I was actually surprised at how well this is.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. Like, for the most part, it's like, I think that Tim looks very nice, especially in particular because like large and detailed. But it's like, maybe just me, but I kind of thought the graphics got kind of like uglier as the game went on. It's like it's like for whatever reason, maybe because the developers got lazy and or ran out of time. Programmers, I should say, but it's like. I don't think the game looks as good in Stage 4 as in Stage 4 as it does in Stage 1.
Yeah. So, and I should clarify, like, Tim's animations and graphics and the enemies, animation and graphics, and as well as the weapons that you get. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, the background, the stages, and stuff like that, those are so bland that it's not even funny, that I can't even include those into the good graphics department. But I did want to at least, point out that, the character sprites are very well done. Another negative on this game, I'm just going to jump right into it, and I apologize, Greg, but the sound effects and music is horrible in this game.
I agree. Yep.
So
the one nice thing about the music, so one nice thing about the music was it did a pretty good. The show theme song in the main menu is pretty well done.
Yes,
that's
where it
the
ends.
highlight of it. Yep.
Which is disappointing because again, like this is a long game and these are big levels, and you have to listen to that music and you have to listen to those sound effects, and I think that all comes into play when it comes to are you going to stick around and play this game. And I'm just going to throw it in there now. So of games that we've played on this podcast, at least in the time in which I've been part of the podcast, just a few games that I would rate lower than this, just so that people know that, yes, this is not a great game, but it can get worse. So the 4 that I mentioned was The Wizard of Oz, which we've talked about in nauseum how bad that was. Time Cop, which we were kind of split on, but for the most part we agreed that it wasn't a great game. Space Ace, which I know we definitely were split on. You definitely liked that game a little bit more than I did. And then Shaq Fu. I think this game is slightly better than all 4 of those games, but it is definitely in the conversation for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree about that. I'd also say I also played I also played another platformer TV based movie based in this case game recently for charity stream Wayne's World, which I thought which I'm covering on the podcast, but spoiler, it plays worse than this. It plays a bunch worse than this one does.
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention that game, but then I was like, we haven't covered it yet, so
no, but that's okay. It's like I already said previously how I didn't like that game. Plus, I already talked about it when I streamed it, so it's fair. So I mean, I can tell the developers tried. Like I said, the game design is solid. There's all the nice touches here that this game has. Such as that trick manual. It's just that, like I said, for whatever reason, the execution of the game, when I actually came sitting down and programming all this into the game, didn't add up for whatever reason. And, maybe it could have had the same problem that many other games have. Rush development cycle, not a lot of money, just simply, under pressure by Disney just to get it finished, out the door in time for Christmas. Yeah. But, there's all kinds of reasons that this game may have suffered. So.
Yeah. And I also think, to be fair, I think by the time this game came out, gamers and even parents at this point were kind of keyed into, it's based on some sort of intellectual property that's a TV show or a movie. More than likely, that's going to equal a bad game. That's just kind of how things were at the time. Stuff, for movies and TV shows were just pumped out without a care in the world just to make that money. And, we all eventually smartened up and said, nope, we're not doing that anymore. And I think this is definitely one of those games that I won't say suffered from it, but, was rightfully judged because of it.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say suffer from it because, to be as I said, evidence suggests the game did not sell very well. Hence the high prices the game goes for today on eBay. So, I think that's probably, I think it probably did hurt the sales for sure.
Yeah.
So we've said already what we thought about the game. People back in the day, actually, this is a case where again, I think it's because of how you mentioned last time, Joe. It's how one big one big influencer can talk trash about something and how it affects poisons the public perception about it. I think it's definitely happened. This happened in this case. Because like reviews of this game back then were more positive than reviews of the game now.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably like one reason. Like I think this game definitely suffers like from that. Unfairly so, I think. I think because I said, while the game is bad, it's not horrible. So the game got pretty mixed positive ratings when it came out back in the day. So it's like just to give you an idea here, like. EGM gave 33 out of 50. A magazine called EP Daily gave it 7 out of 10. GamePro gave it 14 out of 20. Disney Power gave it 12.2 out of 20. Video Games and Computer Entertainment gave it a 25 out of 40. Electronic Games gave it a B, and Entertainment Weekly gave it a C minus. So those not horrible scores. I mean, those like pretty average positive ratings like all around. So. They mainly said that, the things they liked about the game is pretty much the same things we've said, like Pitfall, power tools, kind of like gameplay. The game plays well, as we said. Like it's easy to pick up on. The weapons are cool. The graphics are pretty good. The graphics are pretty good. I like them overall. The world design, while being silly, I do think I do think it's kind of fun. I think that we didn't mention before how every now and then when you're on the sets, you do see glimpses of like behind the scenes, kind of like the set work there, which is a nice touch, I think. So it's like the actual overall design of the world, I think is well done. It's just the actual like how the world plays is not great, unfortunately. So. So the negative things are also the same things. They're also the same things we already commented on. The game's not challenging for hardcore players. The music's pretty bad. You're pretty much only like doing. You're pretty much only doing your standard jumping, shooting, collective items that so many of the platform games have done. Here's something. Here's something that we did talk about, but I also agree with the object placements in the game. Both the weapons and the items you have to find is not great. A lot of them are either like hard to see or hidden locations or like and I also got trapped for a while in like a kind of like a brick enclave, whatever you call it, and one of the stages for a while. So it took me a while to figure out how to get out of that. Yeah. So because I went down there for an item and I couldn't get out, so I had to like wait the timer to run out. Yeah. So the timer in this game is pretty generous, though I will say that much, because you need that big timer because the stages, as Joe already said, are huge stages. Yeah. So, but anyway, but nowadays, if you look at more contemporary lists, you'll see this game often gets included, in this list of like bad Super NES games and or like weird video games. So it's like, I do agree the game's weird for sure. It's like, because, like I said, the idea of turning the show into a game is not horrible. The actual way they did it, however, kind of makes you go like, okay, like what they're smoking here. But but like I said before, the game's bad, but I agree. I agree that I don't think it belongs on this list of like 10 worst Super NES games or anything like that.
No, so, definitely not. There's definitely 10 worse than this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely for sure. So to my surprise, there are no codes at all in this game whatsoever. There's no secrets. There's no cheat codes used. Nothing like that. So, again, so why that is, again, make your own decisions about that.
They wanted you to suffer.
Apparently so. But suffering is relative because, like I said, the game's not overly difficult. But it's like suffering through gameplay, I guess, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, Before we move on to eBay and final thoughts, do you have anything else? Do you have anything else that you want to say about the game overall, Joe?
No, I have said my piece. Like I said, you will play this for 5-10 minutes, maybe get through that first level. You will have seen just about everything the game has to offer, and you will make a decision whether you're going to continue or not. I will not tell someone not to play this because it's not as bad as it's been hyped up to be, and
True.
We've recommended worse games. So if I'm going to recommend someone check out Time Cop or Shaq Fu because we can find some positives in those games, then we have to, you have to at least recommend this one as well and say at least give it a shot.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, but if you enjoy platformer games, I think the patience for a longer one, by all means give this game a shot because it's like, because again, you may find, as I did, that you're pleasantly surprised by the fact that the game's actually like playable compared to like not being like a steaming pile of garbage that people tend to think it is these days. So, but anyway, as mentioned before, eBay, this game's expensive. It just reinforces the fact that this game probably did not sell very well because for reasons that Joe and I like already mentioned on. So, if you're a collector, want to add this game to your collection, or just upon playing a physical copy. Just be prepared to pay a bit more than average for it. I will say, car prices are not horrible. It's the CIB copies that get like nuts. As far as Super NES games go, because it's like there may not be much manual, but there is a manual to this game. So if you are trying to collect everything to complete in box, then you are still going to need that. So anyway. The game can be found on eBay. 13 copies of the game are currently listed as doing research. 15 copies of the game are recently sold. These prices include shipping. North American copies only. Like I said before, cart prices are high, but I wouldn't say that they're outrageous. The average prices that I found for this game have been sold on eBay and cart only, ranging from $60 to $92. So a bit up there, but I have seen higher priced Super NES games for sure. So. CIB though is where you got to open up your wallet because those copies sold anywhere from $134 to $282.
Wow.
Depending upon completeness and or condition of the box material. So, and a sealed copy of this game sold recently, graded everything for $1,300. So
wow.
Definitely price your game down to your collection that either way. So
yeah, and I mean I understand those prices because if I'm being honest, I don't think I've ever seen this game out in the wild. Never mind the cart, and never mind like in box. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I
mean it's pretty interesting to picture the picture they use for it. So but it would stick out, I think. So. Yeah. But anyway. So once again we cover a game. We cover a game in the podcast that we find is not quite as bad as your reputation has it made out to be. So that's not to say that people love this game. I think the highest marks I've seen in the game is just like it's playable. Yeah. And there definitely are people. Ironically enough, the person whose long play I watched this game on YouTube yesterday to remind myself about this game. The person who actually did the long play of this on YouTube actually hates the game with a passion. So, but he still wanted to do it because he's the first person to release a full Let's Play of the game. Right. So, right. But it's like he was saying in the comments, I took a break from playing this game to play this game to actually do like real housework. It's like that's how bad to me the game was. But it's like I guess I can see that. But it's like if you're doing it for like work purposes, quote unquote, as opposed to like for fun, then right. your mentality going into it's going to be different.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting anyway. So if you're looking for final thought. If you're looking for like a more obscure platformer game to play on the system, maybe that you've overlooked or whatnot, and or curious you're curious to play quote unquote bad games, by all means check this. By all means check this out. You know, like if you're a fan of the show and have nostalgia for it from like backwards on, you may also feel right at home playing this game. But otherwise, looking at like great platformers, the system, there are far better games out there to play.
Yeah. So.
I guess that's about as much as we can say about this game. So, anyway, next time on the podcast, we're covering a game that Joe wanted to cover. I believe we're covering a very interesting game because it's like I'm trying to remember. I maybe get confused. We're covering Blackthorn on the Super NES next, which didn't that also come out? So didn't that also come out like Genesis, Joe?
If it did, I never played it. What I know of the game is that it's kind of in the same vein, or maybe the same creators as Another World, or Flashback, which we have covered. So I kind of wanted to see what came after and what they were able to do. So that was kind of my reasoning behind picking that game. Plus, I mean, we have so many games to cover, had to pick something, right?
Okay. Yep. So actually, yeah, I was half right. Right company, wrong system. Okay. There was an enhanced version of this game. The enhanced version of this game that came out with the Sega 32X.
Ah, okay. There you go.
And the game, the game actually is available. It's available currently like on the Switch, PS4, Windows, the Xbox, Xbox One as well too. So
yeah, I believe they had a remaster come out or something along those lines.
Something like that, yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So I've never played the game, so I'd be curious to dig into it. So, anyway, that's it for us today. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, etc., feel free to leave them on our Facebook page, or you can also send me an email directly to the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. Joe, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at JOESUX30. Apparently, they may be going back to Twitter. I saw Elon post something the other day asking about Twitter or X, so we might get some rebranding again. I don't know. So eventually, I will be still correct by calling it Twitter. I also have a very public Facebook, which, if you kiddies are offended, please don't go there. But that being said, I also do another podcast called the Radical Retro Roundup. George and I were supposed to record Saturday, but that didn't work out. So we're going to do that next week. And finally going to cover Arkham, which was an interesting game, I will say that. Little spoiler for that episode. It's made by some of the creators of Fallout, the original Fallout, and it is so text heavy, and it's so like story building, like exactly what Fallout 1 and 2 were. Honestly, I loved the game because of the lore, but there was so much of it that I just got overwhelmed. But yeah, so that should be out in a week or so, and then we're going to quickly push out episode following that about Richard Pryor's show that he had in the early 80s, which was basically Mr. Rogers / the Pee Wee Herman show before that was a thing. So that's going to be an interesting topic. I'm sure George is looking forward to that, because when I said Richard Pryor had a TV show, he was like, that should be interesting. And I was like, it was a kid's show. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. So that's going to be fun to cover.
I mean, Bill Cosby had a kids show for a long time too. So it's comedians sometimes do that.
Right, but Fat Albert and Bill Cosby, that makes sense. Bill Cosby was a wholesome comedian. Yeah. Richard Pryor was as raunchy as they get. And I know he had his drug issues, and he was coming out of that and everything else by the time the early 80s came around. But that man is not someone I would have been like, oh, I'm going to put you in charge or, hosting a children's show, where you not only are, having, educational things on the show, but, just life lessons like Richard Pryor and life lessons just don't go hand in hand. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That should be interesting. That's interesting to listen to then. So, but alrighty, folks. As always, we appreciate you listening to the podcast. Stay safe, everybody. Be well. Catch you again next time. Later, all.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Deep power.